Hello there, guys. So I'm back out here today and I'm actually enjoying today. I enjoy every day, but when the sun is shining like this, it's so different. Like because I live in the UK here and in the Midlands, at least, like the weather never gets to this hot. And even when it's hot, it's just all cloudy and grey. But when it's this beautiful, just blue, and it's not like too hot, but it's just that perfect weather. You can just vibe out, relax, unwind, and just enjoy. So it's a Friday, and I rushed to Friday prayers not long ago. And then, I decided to make a quick video right now on here. And I want to talk about my crazy time in Turkey. So around 2019, I went to my auntie's place in Turkey. Like when relatives get together, and for, this time around, it's way more, well, to me at least, because I haven't seen my grandma before until I went to Turkey. Met her there. There was a extended family living there at the time, and it was just me and my mum, and we joined everyone. We were living in a complex sort of apartment, and the area was just Somalis, and it had sort of high rises. It had sort of council estate buildings, and it was in Ankara in Turkey. So we went around November 2020, I think. And, before I left, I was actually feeling the anxiety, like the anticipatory anxiety, you could say. I didn't have the anxiety like as bad as I did the last few months, but it was more of like the normal anxiety. But to me, even that would be overwhelming. So I packed a few tablets and I decided to face the challenges to come. So we went there, joined with the families, and the first day, it's like you're getting used to the surroundings. People from all over the world were there, students, and the family we were living with as well. So they're from back home, Somalia, Kenya, and they've been there for around a year or two. So even they're sort of a bit new to the, Turkish lifestyle and everything. So we settled down the first day and just took it all in, and then comes the second day. And on the second day, I didn't want to, just stay around and, just connect with people. I wanted to step out and see what's there, what's Turkey offering me. So that's how I am anyways. My personality is like, I want to go out and I want to mingle with society. If they're doing bad, I'll be the judge myself. Doesn't mean I'll get involved, but, I want to be able to take that all in, like sort of information processing. So what I did was during the evening, I stepped out, and because it was a place where everything was so different to me, I got carried away. And people around me at the time in the area, I got to know like one or two guys already. Like that's how quick I was getting to know people. And because they're already living there and they're sort of students, they didn't really care. So we stayed out for a long time, like after dark. And because it's my only like second day there, family got worried. And because I didn't have the SIM done on the second day, they couldn't get a hold of me. And things started to get out of hand real quick. So I came back home, and my mum wasn't happy. We got into a argument, and the people, my cousins there and stuff, they weren't really helping. They were trying to diffuse the situation, but not in the sense as vouch for me. So I was just left, me and mum back and forth, which I shouldn't really get to. But it was just sort of a misunderstanding, all because of me, of course. So what happened was, I actually ended up getting kicked out because it got so heated. My auntie said, just go out if you want to leave and stuff. And because I was hot-headed at the time, I left. So this is around 11, 12-ish in the night. I know it isn't too late, but it's still, of course, classified as, late for a tourist, if you can say, or someone that's just new to the country to be doing whatever they want on the second day without anyone, knowing of their move and stuff. So I got kicked out, and what I actually did was I went to the store next to the area. So the way the area is set up is like the apartment complexes, like I said before. And for some reason, Ankara especially, I've been I've been Istanbul before, but Ankara is like more of a hilly place and full of mountains. So once you actually come to Ankara, either from Istanbul, which is a bit more to the east, I think it's around a 3-4 hour drive or something. So whichever side you come from, Antalya, Istanbul or whatnot, Ankara, it's like you enter it and then it's like hilly and then there's valleys, and in that like valley it's like actually a large valley where you could have like a few areas in there. So it's like literally the same size as Leicester, like my city where I live in. The valley is the same size as Leicester, so it's got different areas that are like huge. It's very populated there. So anyways, it was a low valley place, and the apartment complex that I was living in was called Shanghai or something. Like it had a sort of a Chinese ring to it. So I stepped out the apartment, went all the way down, went to just outside of my area. There was like a lot of stores on the highway, and we actually just went out, bought a few snacks and whatnot, the mischievous lads behavior. And then we just chilled out at the park. And then came a time where I was just all alone, because the guy that I was with, he's got, of course, a family, a wife and whatnot. And then he returned back to his place. And because I'm homeless at this time of my second day, I just decided to venture out alone. So I went down one of the main roads in the area that we lived in, just in front of the houses. So the houses and complexes were here, the other ones were here, and there's a main road here that divides the same area but sort of in the center. So I was going down there, and it's late, it's around nearly 1 o'clock at this time. And one thing I'm not used to, like in the UK, and whenever I leave the UK, is like everything is sort of like managed here. You step out in the night, the only wild thing that you see is foxes. But over here, as I'm walking down, I've now walked into a territory of literally, I can say 30 stray dogs. And I'm literally walking, and they're coming down, the area from this side. They're sleeping on the path that I'm walking. So if I turn around, they're already starting to surround me in a way. So I decided to, balls of steel, walk through it. And a few of them got up, they started sniffling around me, and that just made things like, I start having those thoughts like, today's gonna be my last day. Like, why did I get into that situation back into the house? So anyways, I filmed it, and I was trembling inside. I wasn't showing it from the outside. What people say, dogs can sense fear. So I walked right in between them. They were coming down, they were barking, and there was one Turkish guy that he knows the stray dogs, like not personally of course, but their behaviors. So he came down in a car, sort of like the guy that saved the situation, and he had like a handful of rocks. And that's what I was actually thinking of before, like grab dirt, just in case these dogs get too close. But my strategy was like, if they get too close, what I'm gonna do is kick up a dust and then just sprint and go straight into the main road. When the traffic is, cars are flying left and right, the dogs could be intimidated by that. So that was my sort of strategy. But the guy came, and he had a few pebbles and whatnot, and like he made that, I don't know, he said something in his language, and they made that like to disperse them and stuff, and it worked. And we crossed the street, and the guy was laughing, and I was like, yo, right, so this is what you do. But my heart was still pounding. I was like, wow, like my first day, I was about to get eaten by these dogs. Like something I definitely didn't think of. But, whenever you venture out and you're alone in a different country, like you can't speak the language, you've got to be prepared for anything. So it gave me, a lesson, like whenever you go out there, be prepared for everything and anything. And even though it's good to have someone there with you wherever you go, there's always that excitement when you go alone. So I ended up going to the gas station right across the street after I crossed where the dogs were. and I met a few other guys, Turkish guys, and we literally clicked from the time of night that we were out. So we gave each other that, that little nod, like, yeah, you good? Yeah, I'm good. And then after that, it's like, you want to chill? Like, jump in the car, we go to the city. And because I was homeless, I didn't refuse. So I got inside the car with them. So the journey continues from there. And from there on, it does get more into like, what do I do now? Like, since we left the area and we're now in town with a bunch of guys that I don't know, but we're all at the same, timing, looking to have fun and whatnot. Venture in town, we're seeing the girls over here, there's live music going on. So it took that one part of me out. Like I was in that area that, like, I was confused, somewhat fearful of what's to come. And now I've put myself in another situation where I don't know these guys. They can do whatever they want. There's like 4 or 5 of them. They're smoking, they're doing everything. And I didn't care at that point. So we got into the city, and they got their drinks. And then as we're walking, we're connecting from, like, they're playing like Tupac. They're playing these hip hop songs that I listen to as well. And we're just like, yeah, all right, so that's what you do. Yeah, cool. And then because the whole energy is just up and excited, no one's feeling uncomfortable. So as we're walking down the street, we're like, yo, live music, like this is in the center now. So before you like get into the actual center where the mall is, the towers and stuff, there's like these high street restaurants and stuff, and there's a live music place. So we walk into the live music place and we sit down, we have our table, there's a bunch of girls on the other side, and we're getting into the mood now. So they were playing their music, everything's all relaxing. I look at my phone, I'm not getting any calls, but deep down, in my head I'm thinking, right, so what time am I gonna come back? Because if I come back the next morning, I might just put myself in another situation, and this is just my second day there. So we just enjoyed the night. I'll just quickly, long story short it. And then I get back in the early hours of the morning. I knocked in the house, and then one of my cousin sisters were there. Like, we got along so well. Like, if she wasn't there, I wouldn't be able to get away with a lot of things. She was like my anchoring. Like, whatever I did, she would, just hide my trail and stuff. But yeah, anyways, that was my second day in Turkey. A little wild story. I didn't get too much of it. I'm actually starting to tell stories on this channel, and that's something that I find really difficult, like in real life situations as well. When I try to tell stories, I tend to say, right, so on this day, or what happened was, so I'll get into the first part of the story, and then I'll climax. I'll say like, so then after that happened, and then, yeah, that's not really a story. So I've got to, get used to telling, stories throughout. There's a plot, and then there's the connection of the story, the places, the people, the climax comes. You don't tell the climax until you get there, then bam, story connects, and then, you end it off with a sort of a conclusion. But anyways, that's my short story, and I hope you lot enjoyed it. And I'm just going to enjoy the rest of the day, probably get ice cream now, and yeah, take the day as it comes. But other than that, I hope you're having a lovely day. I know I am. And for those of you out there watching right now that are having a difficult time, just remember, there's phases in life, and there's phases in months, and there's phases in weeks. You might have a shit start to the week, but keep going, All love and positivity, and I'll see you lot on the next one. Take care, guys.